One. Hey guys, Joker the Fool here, and this is a new and improved poll review. I'm really going to edit this down. I'm going to make it a lot shorter, and this is the series where I go through the last 7 daily polls I did on the Exclusively Games forum. I talk about why I did them. I go through the results, and I go through some of the replies that you guys did. So let's just get right into it. And the first one that we're talking about today is Daily Poll 78. When will Final Fantasy VII Remake come out? And I did this poll because Sony had their State of Play a few days before I posted this poll on the 12th of May, and I decided to, and since it had it had the trailer for Final Fantasy Remake, a new one. I decided to do a daily poll on when the hell this thing is going to even come out, and it's a pretty mixed bag. I'd say most people think it will come out in either 2020 or 2021, so it's definitely ways off from what most people say. And then the two biggest ones after that, people don't have enough information to decide, and then it will there's not enough information for them to decide, and then that they don't care about Final Fantasy VII Remake. So let's go to the replies. And Bruce Lee Nagato says, 2019, let me cling on to the little hope that I have left for just a little bit longer. And I don't think a 2019 release date is at all likely. There is some hope because there was English voice acting in the trailer that we saw, but so that could be indicative of a earlier release date than we initially thought, but I wouldn't hold your breath on it coming out in 2019. And Twitch says Chapter 1 might release in 2021, maybe a chapter every second or third year after that. The date when all of Final Fantasy VII Remake has been released will depend on how many chapters there are. Considering how fast things don't happen at Square, I wouldn't bet on a full release being done before 2030 if there are more than 4 chapters. And in this mindset, I do have to agree. It was just, if you look at like Final Fantasy 15 or Kingdom Hearts 3, it's just like delay after delay with Square's games that they develop in house. And if you've kept on the rumor mill with Final Fantasy VII's development since that E3 2015 reveal, it has been an absolute mess if we are to believe what they've been saying about it, which probably has been the case. So I do think this game is a ways off, and I'm not sure if it's exactly as far off as Twitch thinks it is, but it's definitely going to come out well into the next decade, completely, if it is episodic. But let's move on to Daily Poll 79. Are you excited for E3? And I did this because E3 was about a month away from the time that I wrote this poll, and it is a big industry event, and a lot of stuff gets announced. There is a lot of excitement about it, and it's not necessarily, it's definitely something you take with a grain of salt, because a lot of the stuff that we see at E3 is just, pure lies. It's been confirmed for years. You can look at stuff like Watch Dogs or Divisions, massive downgrades in terms of their graphics and content. Look at Fallout 76. That was basically just false advertising, blatant false advertising, and that was all done at E3 for the most part. The big reveal that Todd Howard did there. So obviously, it's obviously something that you take with a grain of salt, but it's still something that's exciting. It's still a big thing that a lot of people care about. So I figured I'd do a poll about it, and most people are either they're tepid about it. So the biggest one is 19 people saying they're looking forward to E3 but not actively anticipating it, or that they don't care about E3. Only a few, 3 people are hyped for E3, 7 people are not excited for E3, and then 5 people are excited for E3. So I would say it's a pretty mixed bag between the 50 of you guys who responded to this poll. Mostly pretty tepid about E3, which is definitely very justified. And let's go to the replies. Turnicman228 says E3 is only for stockholders, game journalists, meaning it in the worst way possible, and hack YouTubers like Angry Joe. It's not for the average gamer. And I do have to agree with this mindset, Turnicman. There is a lot about E3 that is just industry exclusive. If you look at like the E3 awards that they'll give out to certain games, convincing you to buy them, and just it is definitely about it was for the longest time an industry event meant to make connections and market things on a trade show or something like that. So I do think that E3 is mostly just like the industry just gets to sort of they just get to stand in the circle and just compliment each other. That's basically the nice way of saying it. But we'll go to the second reply from Moonlight. I've seen him in a few daily polls. E3 used to be one of the most hype events for me every year. The last couple of years, he just stopped caring. The AAA gaming industry has been going downhill, in his opinion, and he's more excited for indie games, which usually don't get into big conventions. Some indie games get into PAX, Moonlight, so PAX might be something you want to check out. He says he's more interested in Tokyo Game Show because Japan seems to understand its consumers better. I heard Japan's shifting its market more to PC because of the console censorship and that devs are getting tired of the cell phone gacha games. So I'd say pretty interesting take. I do think, I do like the Japanese game industry. I do hope they turn more to the PC market, especially with how censorious Sony has been. I mean, you've had developers literally leave because of how bad Sony has been with their censoring. I think one who worked for, I think it was Marvelous, left, who was working on Senran Kagura. He stopped working because of he left that company because of Sony's censorship. So, but that is definitely a whole different, that's a whole different video I could make on that. And I've said I would make one. I might, but I would say, so most people pretty tepid about E3, and there's a lot of reasons to be tepid about E3 or not even excited for it at all. And Daily Poll 80, that is the next one that we are doing. I did it on Steam sales, and I don't know, it's just one that I randomly thought of. Summer sale is going to be coming along eventually, and this is a pretty mixed. I would say this isn't really a mixed one. Most people either buy during Steam sales occasionally, or they buy during every one that they can. That's over 60% of you guys with those two options. 15% of you guys don't have Steam. One person buys during Steam sales rarely. 2 people have bought during one Steam sale, and then 3 people have Steam but don't buy during the Steam sales, which is a very interesting choice. And then we'll go on to the replies. Bu says he used to look forward to them every year. After he cracked the 1,000 game mark, just never saw anything that grabs him, or even worse, seeing an amazing deal, clicks on his page and it's in his library already. And I have a bit over 100, and I've seen stuff that's already in my library. I'm like, oh, it's like only $5, but I bought it like a year ago already, and I still haven't played it. So I can sort of sympathize with Bu a little bit. I don't have 1,000 games in my Steam library. If I ever do, that'll be absolutely insane. But we'll go to Star Magician, who bought a bunch during one Steam summer sale and stopped buying from Steam in favor of GOG once he learned more about it. GOG is a great service. DRM free. The Galaxy is a bit of it's not as feature complete as Steam is, but it's a good launcher. Their refund policy is a little iffy in my opinion, but DRM free is very, very nice. And Star Magician has been pretty active in the daily poll, so thank you for that. And we're going to move on to Daily Poll 81. Do you play sim games? And this is another one that I thought of, randomly. There's no real impetus for this, and that's a lot of daily polls that I do. And I would say this is a pretty mixed one. A few people play as many sim games as they can. About 6 have played more than 10. 10 have played more than 5. 13 have played less than 5. 6 have played 1, and then 6 haven't played any. And we'll go into the replies. Necromancer X69 says he's sure that he's played more than 10. Among his favorites are Roller Coaster Tycoon 3, Platinum Lobotomy Corporation, Monster Management Simulator, Plague Inc. I have Plague Inc. It's pretty fun. Rebuild series, Stardew Valley. Stardew Valley is also pretty fun. I've been playing that a lot recently. Animal Crossing New Leaf, very fun. Can't wait for the new Animal Crossing on Nintendo Switch. And Majesty 1 and 2. He says it's a great fantasy kingdom sim, even if his heroes are a little bit retarded. Still loves the game. So I think that's pretty good, and that's a lot. I saw some more recommendations in that specific thread. I will leave a link to all the daily polls I talk about, so if you're interested in any of them, check out the description and check out the forum in general. It's a great place to be. So we'll move on to the second comment from Balta666, who's been pretty active in the polls for basically as long as I've been doing them. Says definitely not one of his favorite genres and something he hasn't played for at least 20 years. Never played any of the Sims itself, but have SimCity, SimCity 2000. If these are to be considered theme, if these are to be considered theme park and theme hospital. Wow. Okay, I can't speak, but that's basically it for Daily Poll 81. Move on to Daily Poll 82. And this is, do you think the Nintendo Switch game voucher is a good deal? So the day before I did this daily poll, there was a direct for Super Mario Maker 2, which looks really, really fun, by the way. And I've done daily polls where it's been like, review the last Nintendo Direct or something like that. I didn't want to do basically that again. It would be a very boring poll. So basically, Nintendo's got this Switch game voucher. If you're a Switch Online member, you can buy basically a pack of 2. It's only sold as 2 for $99 USD until July 31st of this year. And then there's a limited list of games that you can redeem them for. Most of them are online games. And you can use it to pre-order games. So you could pre-order Mario Maker 2 and then buy Smash. That is the example that they used in the Direct itself. There's some other things like Fire Emblem Warriors, I think Mario Kart 8 Deluxe can be bought. So there's a whole link. I linked it in the poll topic. I got the link to the full list of games, so you can check that out there. Like I said, link all the daily polls. So with most people, they don't own the Switch, so this is irrelevant to them. That's 40% of people responded with that. Eight of you guys said they think the voucher is a good idea. 3 of you guys said they think the voucher is a bad idea. And then 5 say that your thoughts on the voucher are neutral. And 3 of you guys do own the Switch and don't care about the voucher. Retro84 says he thinks it's a good idea. It's a shame that he can't use this due to not having a real connection to the internet, but he can see some people saving money with this. It was also smart to announce this with Super Mario Maker 2. Why? Somewhere in his head, there's a thought that would have been useful to have the game digitally, since it's sort of a game you can keep coming back to in either short bursts or long sessions. Don't really know how to put it, but a game like Animal Crossing has the same digital copy vibe to it. And I gotta agree with Retro. It's a pick up and play game. I think that's the word that you're looking for, where you could play it for like 10 minutes or 10 hours, depending on how much time you've got. And it's, fun regardless. So I think that's a pretty good comment from Retro. So next one is Zoltor, and he says, considering that digital copies of games should never cost as much as physical copies to begin with, no. However, if their reason for charging retail prices for digital copies isn't complete BS, which every platform owner is using the same excuse, so there's probably an ounce of truth to it. However, platform owners need to grow a damn backbone, as without games on the shelves, there is less of a reason to go into a store anyway. So either way, storefronts will be forced to accept it. If this is a sneaky way to offer games at a discount without ruffling retail store owners' feathers, although even with the vouchers, the games will still be overpriced. Anything digital shouldn't be costing more than $20 as is, and very few games will be worth paying more than that. So I guess Zoltor is saying that there isn't a lot of value to having a digital copy. I've paid $60. I paid more than that for digital copies of games. I don't feel like I got a raw deal. It depends on how much content you get from the digital copy. So I do prefer physical in terms of like you actually do own the game. You've got a disc. You can sell it if you want to. Stuff you can't really do with a digital copy, I'd say. But I can see where Zoltor is coming from, and this move is. The move by Nintendo with the vouchers is definitely to get you buying digitally more. That is the high and low of it. They want you on the eShop instead of going to Amazon. They don't want to have to make the Switch cartridges too much anymore. They want to do everything from their server system. And Nintendo's server system and their online system are frankly, they're pretty bad. Okay, they are very, very bad. They're just functional enough, but they're not. It's nowhere near Steam. It's even less than Epic in some aspects. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done on the eShop before I could see myself using it as much as I do with Steam. That is just me. But we'll go on to the 83rd daily poll. Are you interested in World of Warcraft Classic? And World of Warcraft Classic, I think the first streams for it happened around the time I did this daily poll. I wanted to ask you guys, there was some controversy about this game, not being interested in it. Some game journalists said that, gamers didn't want it, and some people, so you had guys at BlizzCon saying that they didn't want, World of Warcraft Classic either, but people clearly do. On this forum, though, most people don't play WoW, don't intend to. Some people, that's most of you, that's 66%. Next is that free people, they haven't played WoW but will play WoW Classic. 18% of you guys used to play WoW and won't play WoW Classic, and then 4 of you guys used to play WoW and will play WoW Classic. So most people are either not interested in it, and there is, I think, a large amount of people on this forum who used to play WoW, got disillusioned by it, and they don't want to go back into the Activision Blizzard ecosystem. And I think there's a lot more than just World of Warcraft that's influencing their decisions. Activision and Blizzard, operating as an entity, and like the individual things that they do, whether it's through the Activision's brand or Blizzard's brand, they've done a lot of stuff to really piss people off. And I can see people being put off from any of their IPs when you see all the stuff like all the firings and the microtransactions and the loot boxes and BlizzCon 2018 with the whole Diablo mobile fiasco. Don't you guys have phones? It's all pretty condescending. I think there's a bit of disdain that some people at Blizzard have for their customer base, but that isn't anything new with these big companies hating their customers, as far as I'm concerned. But let's go on to what you guys said in the replies. Leiran, I've seen him in quite a few daily polls, used to play a lot of WoW, and got to watch Activision eat Blizzard alive in real time until he left the game. From what he's seen, he's going to get the old group together and give the classic servers a try. The cost of entry for them to give it a chance is virtually nothing, and if we don't like what we see, we can leave as quick as we joined. He can't see himself getting as deep into the game as he used to be. Very fair. Obviously, WoW Classic came out 15 years ago. There's, people who, played it and they had a lot more time. Their lives were completely different 15 years ago. I mean, I'm only 21, so I was like 6 years old when vanilla WoW was up and coming, and I never really got into the MMO scene, like the whole monthly payment for it or whatever. And, if WoW Classic comes out, I might be willing to give it a try, but that's just, I might, but it just depends on how much the monthly thing is. Because I don't like paying monthly subscription service for specific games. It just doesn't feel right to me. Todd watches, misses the old WoW style. It was a lot of fun. He thinks buying the level characters and everything they've done to change the game has been mostly for the worse. Has been most for the worse and better. But he's lost interest. Most for the worse and better. I don't know what you were saying with that. But he has lost interest in the game. But he's happy Classic getting a release. Disappointed they resorted to shutting down the fan server and then just taking that opportunity to resell their own. If you bought the game, you should be able to play. I'm assuming he said play it any way you want, including any private server. And that is a fair argument, I would say. But Blizzard had a right to close down those fan servers, especially if they're making a competing product. I can't really fault them for doing something like that, but that's just my opinion. But let's move on to Daily Poll 84. Do you play web games? And this is just one. I saw a article on EG, the EG site, where it was talking about web games, and I figured I'd ask you guys about web games. And when I'm talking about web games, it's like it's the stuff that you find on Addicting Games, these really, really basic Flash games that you would play, or stuff like you used to play, like Nick.com, who would have these basic ones. I remember there was like one for Avatar, where it was like the final season, you were jumping on these pillars and stuff like that. So stuff that's like really simple, like really crappy. You play it for at most 15 minutes and then you get bored. I remember playing Pandemic, which was really fun. I think Pandemic was the precursor to Plague Inc., which we talked about in the Sim Daily Poll. But this one is pretty, I would say it's pretty definitive. Most of you guys used to play web games, and after that, 6 of you guys never played web games, and then 7 people play web games rarely. So let's move on to the replies. Hopeless Wombat spent a lot of his days playing on Adventure Quest, RuneScape, Miniclip, and X-Gen Studios in the days before he had a smartphone. nowadays his life is Town of Salem. I've heard a lot of good things about Town of Salem. I think it's just it's not just an online game. You might be able to play it, like, if you got a group of people, you can play it, like with cards or something. But we'll move on to Nick. And Nick used to play web games all the time on sites like Miniclip and Nightstrom and Armor Games. Adventure Quest Worlds was the shit. And before every kid had an iPad, web game sites were new arcades. Growing up in the 2000s, web games were the most accessible games for him. And yeah, I'd say the mobile market definitely ruined a lot of things. But I mean, you'll see, I've been to restaurants and I've seen like kids with like iPads and phones that are playing like Minecraft and stuff. And that's just like a lot of younger people that are just playing mobile games, and their parents just put an iPad in their hands instead of getting them like a actual game console, and they'll just be perpetually stuck in mobile games. And that's basically what's going to kill, not going to kill, but what's going to cause a contraction in console and PC gaming, is that most people are just going to go for the easiest thing for them. And your phone, you use it for a lot of other stuff, and you can play games on it. So a lot of people who might have bought a console just straight up are not going to with mobile. But that is a whole different rant. And this video is 21 minutes long. Tried to keep it shorter. Hopefully I can get better at making this shorter. But this has been Poll Review 12, I think. Definitely trying to edit this down, trying to make it a lot better. If you liked it, then that's great. Leave a like on this video. If disliked it, then you can dislike it. If you want to see more, you can subscribe and stay around for the next video I do, whether it's a poll review or something else. And I think I've taken up more than enough of your time, and I will see you in the next video. Okay, goodbye.